So we are with the number one ADU construction company, CCS, with both Danis. How are you guys?
Very good.
Doing well. How are you?
All good, all good. Thank you. Well, first of all, tell me, how do you guys meet? Why are you in California and LA? How come you became the number one company in construction for ADUs?
I'm gonna let Danny start.
All right. Well, we know each other for a really, really long time. We both served in the military. And we've been in the construction and real estate industry for over 20 years at this point. In 2017, the state of California passed a law and legalized guest homes, guest units, ADUs, as they're described, accessory dwelling units, essentially allowing every homeowner with a single-family dwelling in California to add an additional unit on the property for family use, personal use, or for rental purposes. In 2020, they've added a secondary unit called Junior ADU, Junior Accessory Dwelling Unit, allowing essentially 2 units. We've been aware of the housing crisis, and we've directed our resources right from January 2017 and focused on the development of these units. As a result, now, 5-6 years later, we've definitely have become market leaders.
So this is brand new, the ADU situation.
It is relatively brand new. It did start in other states. It started in Oregon and Washington before starting in California. It was very popular and successful there, and the state of California adopted it, and it is extremely successful here as well.
All right. So can you tell us about what is the guarantee for labor and the materials?
Oh yes, of course. So there are two different main kinds of ADUs. Ones that you build from scratch, brand new construction. The warranty and the guarantee for that is 1 year, essentially bumper to bumper, where everything is covered, and 10 years structural warranty, which means if at any point within the first decade of the unit being completed, it is sinking, it is fracturing, it's just noticeably unstable or has issues, that is completely covered. Now, for the other kind of ADU, an ADU that is created out of existing space, maybe a garage that has been converted, a certain section of the home that is being divided into creating an additional unit, that falls under the category of a remodel, and that gets a 1-year warranty for materials, for labor, and any issues that result of the work.
Anything you'd like to add?
I think he covered everything.
There's a lot of terminology that many people wouldn't understand or they just wouldn't know. So let's talk about all those.
Yeah, sure. Let's simplify for some of our listeners. So LAHD stands for, it's abbreviation for the Los Angeles Housing Department. Many other municipalities have their own housing departments. LAHD just falls for the city of Los Angeles. Now, the Los Angeles Housing Department was created to essentially service and act as a middleman between landlords and tenants. As a homeowner, if you're building an ADU that you are renting, you're becoming a landlord. And Los Angeles Housing Department can assist and intermediate between any potential issues arising between the landlord and the tenant. The Los Angeles Housing Department does perform on 1 to 5 year basis inspections in the units to verify their integrity, to verify that they're up to code and definitely up to their standards of a rental unit. Sometimes, if there is an issue with the tenant and the tenant feels like they're living in an environment that's not up to par, they do have the right to call Los Angeles Housing Department and invite them. And these are the inspections that they conduct.
What about SCEP violation?
Sure. SCEP violation is a violation that is issued following a SCEP inspection. First of all, what is SCEP? SCEP, Systematic Code Enforcement Program, conducted by the City of Los Angeles. The purpose of that program is, again, to verify that rental properties throughout the City of Los Angeles are up to code, they're safe, they're healthy, they don't pose any hazards of any kind, whether if it's electrical or mechanical, potential hazards with mold or asbestos. That's the purpose of the program. Now, us at CCS, we've developed a solution where if you're a building owner and you own multiple rental units throughout the city, whether if it's in one property or multiple properties, and you're going to get hit with the SCEP inspection. They don't miss any property. They show up every 1 to 4 years. They typically write out a very long list of violations. Majority of them will be minor, things like mosquito screens on windows or flickering lights or exposed plumbing or things that can be easily fixed. Some of them are more serious. Sometimes tenants modify the units in an unsafe manner, and it requires a little bit more involvement, a little bit more know-how. And that's where we come in. We can go through the violation, communicate with the SCEP inspector, and verify that we resolve everything, bring the building up to code, the rental unit up to code, and of course get all the required clearances.
What does REAP stands for?
Well, the REAP program, or a better way to understand it, the REAP department in the city of LA is a department that takes over a property where the landlord, the owner, whether if it's a management company or a private owner, neglected and failed to maintain it properly, failed to respond to all the required violations written up by the SCEP inspector. And the city feels there's just no cooperation and people are living in substandard conditions. Sometimes it could be for very minor infractions, unjustified even. The REAP program will take over the property. REAP, by the way, stands for Rent Escrow Abatement Program, where the city essentially will take part of the rent that you as the landlord collect. You collect that rent so you can afford the mortgage on the building, the loans, the maintenance on the building. They'll take over that rent. It'll be paid to them instead of to you. And if you keep ignoring the requirements of bringing the building up to code, that could go on for a very, very long time. The purpose of them collecting rent is essentially for them to handle the repairs on your behalf, which will be at an extravagant cost, much higher than what the market calls for. It'll take years. There'll be fines, there'll be liens on the property through the REAP program. Very unpleasant experience for any landlord, for any investor in real estate that wants to protect their investment, protect their retirement or portfolio. Again, at CCS, we know how to work with them. We know what their limits are, and we can essentially counter any demands that they put on the property, either by, first of all, cooperating as quickly as possible and resolving the violations, and second, making sure that they're just not capitalizing on the fact that they know the law and you don't as the landlord. So we do have solutions in place for that as well.
What about Building Code Violation Division?
Right. The Building Code Violation Division, we interact with them daily. They are part of LADBS, of Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety. They have inspectors that come out. In many cases, it'll be a neighbor complaining that somebody converted their garage with no permits into a rental unit and is renting it. Actually, in recent years, there have been a lot of reports to the Code Enforcement Division made by Airbnb. People are listing rooms in their homes, converted garages, guest units on Airbnb, and Airbnb is required, unfortunately, by law to report to the city of LA every address. And as soon as the city of LA gets the report, the Code Enforcement Department will look up the address and see if they have no ADU permit on file, if they have no guest house permit on file, if they have no allowances allowing them to act as a rental unit. They'll show up the very next day, cite you, issue a building code violation, which you will have to resolve, and you'll have a certain time frame to resolve it within.
It's good that you talk about that, because many people think that I can just list it and build it and list it and they're going to go get away with it. That happens even with Uber Eats. People are like in their homes getting all the Uber Eats situation and cooking in their houses and just sending it without having all the regulations or safety, building and safety, fire department, police department, whatever. So it's the same thing with Airbnb.
Same idea. You own the property. You kind of live your life under the impression you could do whatever you'd like with it, which in a perfect world you could. But in the city of LA, there is regulation. We do live in a free market, but it is a regulated market. And they literally have the right to issue a cease and desist for many Airbnb activities. And in that case, if you have 2, 3, 4 months of bookings ahead, it can be very, very troublesome. You're going to have to refund people. You're going to have to cancel reservations. It's going to hurt your
Right.
reviews and your rankings and your standings with Airbnb. And the unfortunate part is that Airbnb will be the ones reporting, but unfortunately, they just don't have a choice.
Right. And people that has done already this in their homes, is there a way you can help them? Do you help them to fix the situation once they're already in the problem or something like that?
Exactly, exactly. So we come in, first of all, the very first thing we do is we take over communications with the code enforcement division. Simply because we know the language, we know what they can or cannot do, and not only that, we know how to help you keep maintaining your unit while we're working on the solution. Avoiding as many cancellations as possible. It may require temporary access for our people into the unit so we can take measurements and pictures. It may require a potential blocking off of certain dates off your Airbnb calendar just to finalize some activities, but it will allow you to maintain your operations.
So there is no like a punishment from the city to the owner that they're not allowed to do that as long as they hire a professional company that comes, check everything, and if they will tell you this is wrong, this is okay, this we have to fix it this way, and as long as you fix it, they can just start doing their thing again.
And that's the key word you said. As long as you fix it, as long as you respond and cooperate, we are able to, if not completely eliminate, but at least minimize any kind of punishments, any kind of citation fees or violation fees. But it's not always the case. They do have the right to issue some monetary fines if they choose to.
How strong are the fines for this kind of thing?
Well, that comes down to how quick we are to respond. If you notify us right away and we take over communications right away, we're able to almost eliminate the fines to zero.
Right.
But if it does drag out a little bit because you're unsure of what to do or you took a little bit of time to find a solution, to find us, it starts with hundreds of dollars and it can escalate really fast.
I just want to add also that the majority of our clients are not clients that have violations through Airbnb. Majority of our clients, it's clients that have been cited through the SCEP, the Systematic Code Enforcement Program. And usually it's for illegal garage conversions, illegal ADUs attached or detached, illegal additions. And our role is to basically take over, manage everything until there is no violation. So first thing we need to do, we need to get to the district attorney hearing, get an extension if needed, if it's progressed to that point. If it's in the early stages that they just got a notice, we're handling it from the beginning, basically dealing with all of the red tapes, all of the paperwork, all of the bureaucracies that involve in getting the permit. Our architects, engineers, Title 24 surveyors, gonna get on it as fast as possible to get the permit. Then we're gonna deal directly with the Department of Building and Safety, making sure that everything getting fixed up to code, pass the final inspection, go back to the housing department, get the clearance, and everybody happy. So our company is not only helping on building ADUs, we also specialize in legalization of ADUs, conversions, room additions in single and multi-unit homes.
By the way, Danny brought up a point that I'd like to just expand a little bit on. He mentioned the district attorney. So to kind of continue on the question you asked, what happens if you ignore a building violation long enough? And that applies for all building violations, SCEP, REAP, LADBS, whoever is citing you. And it doesn't matter if it's a single or multifamily property. You ignore a violation long enough, the city has a right to do a lot of things, starting with escalating the case and notifying the LA County Assessor's Office. What the LA County Assessor Office does is puts a note on the property profile saying it is substandard. it has unpermitted construction, automatically your mortgage, your lien holder, gets notified as well. And they could do all kinds of things as well. They can come and say, hey, your property is a substandard. We want you to pay off the mortgage right now. We're not willing to carry a debt on this property.
Wow.
Yes. And
if you don't, they will just take the property?
they can take the property, they can foreclose on the property, they can bring in their own people to bring it up to code and charge you an arm and a leg
Whatever it
for
is.
it.
Okay.
Yes. And to make things even more complicated, if this is not enough, the city then rolls over the case to the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office then has the ability, if you keep ignoring, to first of all put financial liens against the property. So you cannot sell, you cannot refinance, you cannot access your equity. And then a step further, it can become criminal. They could file criminal charges against the property owner, again, doesn't matter if it's single or multifamily, and essentially take you to criminal court.
Right now that you said that, what about all these people that think that because they know a little bit of construction, or maybe they got a license back home or whatever, they go to the city and I think they can avoid certain permits or something like that when they say, I am building it?
Not exactly.
Or how does that
Not
work?
exactly. They are able to pull the permits under what's called an owner builder's permit.
Right.
They still have to get everything permitted, but they don't have to have an actual contractor do it if they're comfortable doing the work. Just to clarify, what I just said applies only to single-family homes. The moment it's a multifamily, duplex, fourplex, whatever the case might be, you are required to use a licensed contractor. Owner builder permits are not available for multifamily.
And I'm going to add to that, many of our clients are contractors, developers. They know how to build, but they don't know how to deal with building codes violations. They don't have the architects, the engineers, the surveyors. They don't have the Title 24 that it's extremely important to get it approved. They just don't have the experience of dealing with the housing department, with the Department of Building and Safety, with the district attorney. There is a lot of, as I said before, a lot of red tape, a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy involved. And to get the permit, it's way more complicated than actually building it. So majority of them hiring us for that purpose only, and then they're taking it from the point that it's been approved until completion.
Right. And with the experience that you guys have, it's, I guess, fairly easy to get the permits.
We make it faster, we make it cheaper, and we make it very straightforward.
All right.
You know, they're saying there is no such thing as a genius. Nobody born a genius. A genius is a single being that focuses on a single thing in a constant way. And our people doing it day in, day out. We have architects that's the only thing that they do, building codes violations. Same with our engineers. We have staff in our office that specialize in building codes violations only. Our company have two divisions, a division that we build ADUs and a division that we legalize ADUs, conversions, for those homeowners that have a single home that they converted a garage illegally, or those landlords that have 8, 20, or 50 unit apartment buildings that have few units that been built without a permit. So it's applied to both homeowners with a conversion or multi-unit buildings.
So for someone that has a violation already right now and they want to hire you guys or quote, how does it work? Do you send the whole team, like each department, you send them to inspect before you can give a proper quote, or you just send someone that will go look the overall and just take over the project?
One person cannot do the job. It's not possible. An architect cannot do the engineer job, and the engineer cannot do the survey. So we have a project manager that's going to be assigned to the project, And you're gonna coordinate between the architects, the engineers, the surveyor, Title 24 if needed, another person that's gonna be dealing with the permit expediting, and of course the office manager for everything that involved district attorney hearings and so forth. So there are many individuals that specialize in a specific thing, but the most important thing is that the client don't need to call to each of those individuals. They just need to call to the project manager, and the project manager is the one that's coordinating between all of them. We're taking over in a way that the homeowner, the landlord, don't need to deal with anything. We just come at the end, here is the approval, thank you very much, and good luck.
And the time frame that we're talking, because it's, what is it, about 6 months when you're building a normal ADU? Or how long does it take for the permits?
The time frame, it's depend on the type of violation and the city which they have the violation in. So if a homeowner have a violation of illegal garage conversion, it's gonna be fairly quick compared to a landlord that have a 16-unit building and there are 3 units that been built without a permit. We have some clients, you're gonna be surprised that they're building brand new ground up construction, homes without a permit. So of course, to legalize a project like that, gonna take much longer than to legalize a conversion.
Is it always possible, or there's a point, a breaking point where you will say, sorry, but what you've done, it just, they're not gonna let you do it?
It's happened because when you're building on top of an easement, for example, where there is utility lines that run dead in the center, no matter what we're gonna say, the city gonna say, you need to take it down. So there are certain violations that we just couldn't legalize. So eventually we pull up a permit for demo. We provided them with the ultimate architectural plans to maximize the size on the space that they have to get as much as possible unit built on that lot in order for them to maximize the potential of the property. If the goal is to have a single home as big as possible, to rent it to one tenant, that's what we're gonna do. If they want to get as many units as possible of studios or one bedrooms, that's what we're gonna do. Sometimes they just wanna take it down and create an amazing backyard. That's what we're gonna do. It's all depend on the client. Whatever the client need, that's what we do. But the most important thing is to do it in the most efficient way. And to be efficient, it's not only to approve it, it's to approve it also in an economical way. It's very easy to approve plan by demo everything and build everything again. We're trying to minimize the cost. So if we need to trench around the foundation to show the inspector, hey, the foundation done right, great. If we can open the drywall to show that the spacing of the joist and the studs are done right, that's what we're gonna do. So our job, it's not only to approve, it's also to minimize casualties, basically to minimize construction cost.
And to add to that, to anyone dealing with any kind of violation, our focus is to get you to a resolution the fastest and the cheapest way possible. There are violations that are relatively simple. It could be a missing plumbing permit, a missing electrical permit, a missing permit to change out windows or doors. In those situations, you call us for a consultation. We're not going to offer you any grand, large solutions to a small problem. We're going to explain what needs to be done, point you in the right direction, and give you the information you need to resolve it. We offer free consultations for those. We come in when it's a little bit more complicated.
Even when the project manager is already going to do like a little inspection for you guys?
Correct. If the project manager goes, so everything starts with a phone call, right? You call in, we're going to ask you a lot of questions to assess the situation. If we feel that we need to come on site to better understand, we're going to schedule a free on-site consultation. And while we arrive, whether the conclusion was made on the phone or in person when we come out, if we feel you can resolve it and you don't truly need to hire us, we won't ask you to hire us. We're going to point you the right direction, direct you to the right website where you can pull permits or provide you with the phone calls or the information, the terminology of what you need, and invite you to call us back in case it becomes more complicated. But our goal is truly, again, to point you in the right direction and make it as economical as possible.
And is there like a starting point for the affordable situation? Because you cannot just give a price like it's this range to this range, because it would change every time on the size of the project. So
I'm gonna give you the answer for that because I'm in the field most of the time, and when I see that the violation is too big, which means the structure was built on foundations that cannot be permitted. The framing was done in a way that the ceiling is too low. The roof don't have the required slope. The rooms are smaller than they can be by code, and the list go on and on. I tell the owner it's gonna be much cheaper for you to demo it and build something new from scratch by codes. We are here to simply help our clients solve the situation in the most efficient and economical way. If legalizing gonna cost more than to build ground up, we're gonna highly recommend them to demo and build it again.
right,
We're here to help.
which is always the best option. Like I've seen it with another business that I have. I saw like if the mirror wasn't 2 inches, it was 2 inches off, you just can't open the place. So I know how hectic that is, but many people, they don't know. They just don't realize how many specifications are there for you to be able to get the permit. So that's why there's people like you, and that's why they should contact people like you.
We're also dealing with projects that are a little bit more complex. For example, we had a gas station on Sunset that got crazy violations of illegal electric and plumbing and illegal car wash. We had clients that own buildings that been converted in a way that there is not enough parking. You need a parking ratio based on amount of units. We simply told the owner we just need to bring it back to its original use. We are here basically to help. If we see that the best way to help is to bring it back to its original use, that's what we're gonna recommend to our clients.
Yeah. Yes, if you don't know all the regulations, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. And there will be people like they wanna save, I don't know, money on materials like the wood, and that's why the ceiling would be a little bit lower, just to don't spend on the larger, So yeah, it's crazy how people just wanna save money and they don't realize it's gonna be worse.
It's very easy to build or to permit something the wrong way. It's very easy, sadly.
Sadly.
And the sad thing about it all is that most of the times inspectors come to single homes. I'm not talking about duplexes and above, single homes for inspection when a neighbor called or a tenant called. They did something wrong, but beside to all of the fees that they need to pay, now they need to refund the tenant for all of the rent that they paid till the day of the violation. So if a tenant lived there for 15 years, guess what? You need to give them a full refund for all of the 15 years that they paid you rent.
Yes.
Wow. Let me ask you something, because I know an example, a real life example that a friend of mine just lived. and we were wondering about some things, and it just came out because of what you just said. So this friend of mine, he's renting a ADU, it's a garage conversion with a 1 bedroom. They attach one more bedroom to the garage, so it's a 2 bedroom garage conversion. And when it was raining, his whole house went flooded. All the house went flooded, and they had to replace like all the flooring. His computer got damaged, his TV got damaged, everything, electrical got damaged. They started charging them $500 instead of $2,800 for the time being of the repairs, but they kept them inside of the property. So I was like, I don't think that's right. I think they should accommodate you somewhere, and for the time being of the repairs. And I mean, I don't know the laws or whatever, but what is the real situation? What does the tenant has to do to this?
I tell you what the tenant need to do, but more importantly, what the landlord need to do. The landlord need to call us if you have a unit that was built illegally. So we're going to be able to legalize it before anything will happen. Because the tenant now have a lot of things that he can do. And if the building or the structure was built without a permit, it's going to be some serious consequences to the landlord. So anyone that hearing that podcast that have a conversion that was built illegally, a room addition that was built illegally, 2 units, 4 units, 8 units, a gas station, a restaurant that things been subdivided inside the structure. Call us now. Call us as fast as possible, because it's just a matter of time until you're gonna have a tenant that's gonna know the law just a little bit more than the average person, and then you're gonna need to pay way more than what this unit can provide of years to come,
What is it that the tenant can get from this situation, if they were in a situation like this, and so that the landlord is aware of the things that they can really face due to this problem?
Well, let me jump in, if I may.
Please.
Realistically, what the landlord should have done was to first of all relocate the tenant. You can't have a tenant living in a substandard situation like that. Everything is water damaged. You leave the building materials wet long enough, it's going to grow mold. And the way you're describing it rained and everything flooded. It sounds like it was done poorly, right? The roof wasn't done correctly. The windows weren't installed correctly. The waterproofing wasn't done correctly, whether if it's stucco or wood sidings. And that could mean several things. Maybe the work was done with an unlicensed contractor. Maybe the work was done with no permits or inspections. So the tenant is entitled to get relocated to a safe environment along with all of their belongings. Also, if electronic materials or equipment like computers, television sets, appliances, whatever the tenant owns that get damaged, should be replaced.
Was the unit built legally or not?
I have no idea.
So if the unit was built,
But I don't think so, because they didn't check for that situation.
so if it was built without a permit, it's an illegal conversion or illegal attached or detached ADU or illegal junior ADU, which is part of the main house. Whatever structure it is, if it was built without a permit, it's a complete different story.
I want to add one thing.
Because he doesn't want to get in that trouble.
Yeah.
I want to add one very important thing. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Danny. I don't like to sound like I'm scaring anyone, but take this as a warning to any potential landlord out there. There are tenants, potential tenants, that are very familiar with the law, familiar with the fact that if they move into an unpermitted unit, whether if it's in a building or back of a house, doesn't matter, there are no official permits on file. They'll move in, they'll stop paying rent, and it'll be very hard to vacate them. Or they'll pay rent for a year or two and then demand all of the rent money back.
Right.
And there are tenants, literally career tenants, that do that. They look online, on Craigslist, on Zillow, apartments.com, wherever you're advertising your rental units. And they'll look at the address. They'll even come to see the unit. And then they'll go to the city,
That's so bad.
check the address, and if they don't find a permit, they'll sign the lease and move in because they know the repercussions. They know
Right.
what they can get back at the end of the day.
Right.
Very, very scary.
Now, right now that you're saying that, are there tenants, I guess they are, that are willing to do, everything is perfect, but they will do a malfunction so that these things happen so that they can get either rent-free or whatever?
You know, there are tenants who would do anything to get away with the rent payments
And-
or utilities or whatever.
And
it
how
is.
the landlord can protect himself from that?
Well, as a first step, make sure the unit is 100% permitted. That's your first line of defense.
Right.
Second, make sure it is 100% well maintained. Whether if you're doing the maintenance yourself, you hire someone like us, you make sure the unit is up to par. You take a video, you take pictures at the move-in day. So if a month later or 6 months or whatever the case might be, suddenly, I don't know, the kitchen cabinets fall off the wall or there's a plumbing flood because a pipe burst, but the unit is 2 years old and it doesn't make sense for it to burst. Anything like that, you have proof that this was in perfect condition when the tenant
Before
moved in.
he arrived.
Exactly.
Anything can happen at any given moment due to weather, economy, pandemic, you call it. But at the end of the day, we need to do everything that we can to do everything right. Everything needs to be per code. That's the most important thing, as Danny said. When you're starting by renting a unit that was built per code, you have a certificate of occupancy, and you rent it legally, not much that can happen to you. Worst case scenario, you have inspection, you have minor violations, you fix them. But if the unit was built without a permit, then we're talking about big problems. And as Danny said, we are not here to scare nobody, we are here to help. So if you have a unit that was built without a permit, give us a call today. It's gonna be much cheaper to handle it in this stage compared to a stage that you already have an inspection and you already have a violation. So if you have a unit, a conversion, an addition, detached ADU, multi-units that you added units without a permit, give us a call today. We can legalize it for you, in most cases.
Guys, thank you so much for explaining about the violation situation in the ADUs. Is there anything you'd like to add?
You know, where you asked me earlier today, what is the 4 Ps? And I promise I'm gonna explain it. The 4 Ps stands for people, price, product, and process. A lot of people can be having 1 out of the 4, 4 out of the 4, but I think that the most important thing is the people. And in our company, we hire only specific individuals that specialize in a specific trade. The architects doing only architectural, the engineer doing only engineering, the permit expediter dealing with the permits only, back and forth with the city. So when you're hiring us, you have a 1 point of contact. You don't need to deal with 5 different individuals. You deal with the project manager only. You're gonna get daily reports as far as what's happening, what's about to happen, when we think we're gonna be able to complete it. But you have 1 person, and that's make all the difference in the world. A lot of people underestimate the time that it takes to legalize a unit. There is back and forth to the city, like, I believe like 7 to 10 times
On average.
on average on each project we're legalizing.
Yeah.
Not only that, you need to meet with the architects, with the engineer, with the surveyor. So we're handling all of that for them. So if you have a violation or if you have a unit that was been built without a permit, don't hesitate. Give us a call. We're going to handle everything from the beginning till the end with all of the individuals that involved.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pablo.